Everyone, and welcome. This is Professor Fair, and today is our first lecture on Comp 112. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you, and let's get started. Share screen. So what we'll be talking about today is some of the logistics of how the course works, and we'll also be talking about some information about the course, and of course also getting into some of the beginning information about the course. It's always displayed backwards, so let's swap that. All right, so now you should be able to see the slides, and also the slides are available on the Moodle site for you to follow along if you wish to do so. All right, so the sections that I'm in charge in are the 11204 and the 11205. So if those are the sections you registered for, you're in the right place. You should also be aware that there's sections 1 through 3, and those run with Dr. Pavin Wolf. And her sections are also all online, but this is a different Zoom than that one. The courses are in fact nearly identical. We cover the same topics, and many of the course content is held in common. So in fact, if you're looking for a course, there are many similarities between the sections, and I definitely recommend checking out my colleagues' sections as well. All right, so an overview of the course is the first topic we'll cover today. We'll talk about the enrollment updates and alternate courses you can take. I am recording this about a week before classes start, so some other updates may be available on the Moodle, but just this is where we're at right now. We'll be talking about the course components and grading, the course policies, and we will then take a first look at programming to help you with your homework. All right, so let's do an overview of the course. The objectives of the course are to learn to think like a computer scientist. In order to do this, we will learn how to read, write, and reason about simple programs. We'll learn the mechanics of Python, which involves the syntax of writing programs and also understanding programs written by others. We'll be using programming to solve interesting problems. We will be thinking about how to break problems down into pieces that you know how to solve with the tools that we're learning in this course. And we'll also learn how to synthesize solutions by combining the solutions together. This is the Python website. Here you'll be able to find the Python code that you'll need to download and install on your computer to be able to actually have Python on your laptop. This is definitely recommended. If you're on campus, Python is also installed on the lab computers and is available throughout the campus. Python was written by the author, Guido van Rossum. He is a very interesting character and definitely somebody I would recommend learning a little bit more about if you have time to do so. He, of course, is best well known for writing Python. He's also invented the code. So this Python code is also used in a variety of other websites that you may be familiar with if you've ever heard of Google or Dropbox. And I also just included this cute little cartoon over here. So there's a Python snake, which of course are known to swallow their prey. And he says, so who is this Guido van Rossum? He's a very interesting guy. He started out as a relatively young scientist, and he and a group of friends got together and were concerned about some of the problems with the current programming languages, and they decided to do something about it, and thus Python was born. So this is a few of our organizational logistics as they look at this instant. Of course, this is a COVID-19 semester, and I'm sure it could possibly be as exciting as last semester. Hopefully not, but this is our setup for the time being. As you can see, there are a total of 5 sections, which you're probably aware of. And each section has an instructor. I am the instructor for sections 4 and 5, and Professor Wolf is the instructor for sections 1 through 3. These sections are online. These sections are running in hybrid. So the lecture time, as you'll notice, is exactly the same for all of them. It is 8:50 to 10:10 in the morning on Tuesdays. basically each of us has our own sections in our lecture. So Professor Wolf will lecture to her sections and I will lecture to my sections 4 and 5. In my sections, you may partake of the lectures in a variety of different ways. There are 2 major options. You may Zoom in at 8:50 to 10:10 to listen to them and interactively engage with me and your classmates as we go through the lecture slides. The other alternative is to do this asynchronously. So that's what I'm doing right now, is putting together the recordings so that you'll have them available. I realize some students may be doing this at different times. You may have class conflict. I know there's a lot of problems with scheduling, so hopefully this just helps to make a variety of options available to you so that you can participate in the class. So I'm just trying to do my part to make sure that the course is able to be taken by as many people in as many situations as possible. That being said, we do have an interesting lab situation. So as some of you have been involved with the saga a little bit longer than others, so just to fill you in, I wanted to have this be a hybrid course because I know many students wish to do programming in person, and I appreciate the fact that programming is new to many of you, and you may just want to be able to, have that interaction. So in order to have that possibility available, I did come up with a very interesting plan. So the issue is that in order to do this class effectively, we really ought to be in a computer lab. And the problem is that most of the computer labs are quite small. So our typical classrooms that we use in the Exley Science Center are too small for this class, even if we cut the class in half. So there are 2 computer labs on campus that would hold half of the class. And I basically asked for one of those classrooms 6 times a week, 4 for this class and 2 times for my other class, which is a bit of an outrageous request, but I actually got it. And so, so this is the deal. 04 and 05 are technically hybrid courses. You have your scheduled lab times. So these are your official lab times, and that's what's posted on the West Maps. But we, in fact, only found out that this plan was approved about a week ago before right now. So we're really just working hard to make sure that everything is in place so this can actually work out. Now, so obviously we can't have everybody in the room because there's 25 of you in each section, and there are in fact not that many students who are signed up to take the course online. So even though we're accepting online people, in fact, that has not been an especially popular option. Of course, we're very happy to have those of you who do choose that option, but many of your classmates did not pick that option. So what that means is we have nearly 25 people to get in. So if we can cut your labs into about half, or we may possibly need to go a little bit smaller so that your entire group can go into the lab. This is what we're doing. We've opened up 2 additional lab times. And so some of you who have been on the list for a longer period of time have gotten some emails about this. So I've been sending out pleas for people to please switch to the afternoon times. Now I realize that you've signed up for the 8:50 to 10:10 or the 11:20 to 12:30, and so that's your lab time and you're entitled to go there, but you need to understand that you may not be able to go in person every week. It'll more likely be about every other week for the in-person activities. And so what this means is that we have these lab times in the afternoon and hardly anybody is signed up. So this lab has 3 people in the entire lab and this one has 2 people in the entire lab. So I'm hoping that some of you who have joined in during drop ad or as you're finalizing your schedule, you may realize that you have openings in your schedule that will allow you to go in the afternoon, because we will not need to rotate as of right now because there are so few people who will be there, right? So you could go every week in person if you wish to do so, if you're able to switch your lab time to these available other times. In addition to that, it is possible to join us online. So if you are some of our online participants, or you may be working remotely for the entire semester, or perhaps you just, you're on campus, but you want to do it online. That is perfectly fine. We are quite set up to do the online option. So in that case, you can zoom into any lab. Now that does not mean you can just zoom in whenever you feel like, right? You need to tell me what your intent is so we know who is going to arrive when, because we need to arrange for the review of the labs, right? And so if you show up at a different time, we may think that, you know, you didn't do your work and you won't get credit for it, right? So we need to have some semblance of order here. You can't just show up whenever you like. You need to tell me when, you know, if your mode is other than what you explicitly signed up for your class. So I'm assuming that if you haven't told me otherwise, that you are going to the in-person labs, that's your intent, and then we will provide you with the rotation schedule on a weekly basis, so you'll know when your week to go to the lab is on and when your week not to go to the lab is on. Otherwise, if you wish to switch sections, you may let me know and we'll switch you into the 1 o'clock or the 2:50. Now that does not change your registration. Okay, so this is all an internal organization that's happening that did not make it onto WestMaps. So those are not official times, but you can take it at those times. What you need to do is you need to just either send me an email or stop by the office hours and let me know that that's what you want to do. And I'm happy to switch you into the afternoon sections. Now, if you are going to be doing an online option, again, you can zoom in and then you can pick the morning labs, which of course will be more crowded because we'll have our in-person people and those labs will have more people in them. And so if you can opt for the afternoon, then there will be more opportunities for individualized help, which is why we're trying to split it up. So you, in fact, actually could have a very nice, very small lab, which is really great. So if you can do that, please, please, please let me know. We'd be very grateful for anybody who has an opening in their schedule who is able to do that either online or in person. And if you are doing this online, you may also participate asynchronously. So there's a couple of ways that I would allow you to participate asynchronously. So one thing that you could do is you could form a group and you could work offline at a time that's convenient for you. So kind of what I have in mind for this is especially people who may be working from different time zones, right? So during the day on Thursday just may not be a good time for you. So if there's a group of you who are in this situation that's in a similar time zone and you want to form a lab group that you want to work together, and then you want to turn in your lab as a group, then that is perfectly fine with me. I'm happy to have you do that. Again, you just need to let me know that that's your plan and we'll be happy to do it. Now, that of course means that you wouldn't see me during the regular lab time. So what you would need to do then is you would need to arrange to check in with me. And by this, I don't mean, you know, this doesn't need to be an hour-long visit, but I want to make sure that I do talk to everybody a minimum of once a week. So either I will see you in person in lab, you will zoom into lab, or you can stop by the office hours. Now, if the office hours don't work, we'll work out something else. And if you truly have a horrendous schedule, we do have a couple of things lined up that we can do, but we just need to know what your situation is to work out when you can check in with us, because we just want to make sure, you know, you understand what's happening here, go over a couple of the tricky questions with you to make sure that, you know, you got the benefit of all of the things that we discussed in the lab. That's the point, so that nobody gets left behind in the class or gets some disadvantage for not actually being with us during the lab time. Now, in addition to that, you may be the type of person that just prefers to work on your own. And if you want to do that in the asynchronous option, you could also opt to just work through your lab yourself. And again, we would have similar rules about you needing to stop in and chat with me once a week. All right, so hopefully that pretty much takes care of all of the possibilities of ways that you would want to engage in the course. This is a little bit also forward thinking here in case we have any crises. Hopefully we won't, but Having gone through last semester and gone through that transition, I think all of us can appreciate that maybe having a little bit of advanced planning could go a long way. So let's say, for example, as the semester progressed, you just were feeling uncomfortable with going into the lab in person for whatever reason. Maybe you need to leave campus because you need to, care for somebody, or, I mean, there are many different situations that came up. There could be a reason why you want to participate in the course offline at some, not in person at some point during the semester, and you may have signed up for it in person. We can handle that. So again, communication is the key thing here, right? So just let me know, hey, something's up. I need to be working not in person anymore, and that's fine. We can switch your mode. What we unfortunately can't do is we can't be switching people into coming into the lab because we do have the state mandated maximum number of students that are in the lab. So we're not going to be switching people in, but if you needed to transition out, that would be possible to do. The other thing is that, of course, if you're not feeling well, it will be important that we'll have something in place. So if you are not feeling well, it's really important that we not be in person because we can't be spreading the germs. So, any kind of symptoms, you really need to be staying home. And that's part of the policy that we have all signed up to as part of the community that we belong to. And so certainly I will be honoring that for you because I don't want to bring any sickness onto any of you, and I presume that none of you want to bring that in to your classmates. So if that happens, all you need to do is just send me an email. So suppose you wake up and you don't feel well enough to come to class, just send me an email. You're like, yeah, I don't feel well, I'm gonna work asynchronously this week. And I'll tell you, great, thanks for letting me know. Do you want to check in after you finish your homework? What do you think? You need a couple of days. Otherwise, if you don't know how long it's going to be, we'll just catch up later. I mean, again, common sense, I think, really needs to be the prevailing thing here. If you're not feeling well, don't come to class. If you have COVID-19, obviously you shouldn't be coming to class. And let's just try to keep everybody healthy. So hopefully having a setup that's pretty flexible like this will allow us to change if we need to. Suppose it's necessary to move offline because of a state mandate or because of a decision that Wesleyan makes. It's hopefully not going to happen, but it is a possibility. And so I think having these sorts of options in place would not make it particularly difficult to transition into having online labs. So in such an event, I would presume that you would be attending your regularly scheduled lab, just move to online. And if you need to switch to another section because perhaps you live in a different state or you're from the West Coast or whatever it may be, we have some alternate times in place and we have a mechanism available to work with that. And we also have a great team of assistants who are also happy to help you with that. Speaking of which, this is our rundown of the assistants that we have lined up for you this year. You are extremely fortunate that we have so many assistants. This is more than we usually have, and they have just been really terrific in stepping up and agreeing to help out. A number of these people have taken programming with me in recent years or worked with me in the past. This is an excellent team of people who are really terrific to talk to, very friendly people, and also very knowledgeable. So I would highly encourage you to work with them and reach out to them whenever you have some questions. So these are the roles that they will be playing. First of all, we'll have an assistant with us during each of the lab sections. So not only will you have me as a resource to be speaking with you as you're working through your labs and your groups, but you'll also have the opportunity to ask questions and reach out to the assistant that will be with us during your lab time. In addition to that, we have graders. So there will be 2 graders working to grade your weekly homeworks. That will be divided just by whichever section you're registered to, because that way it really just divides that right in half. Doesn't depend which lab you go to, in fact. Then we're also going to have the lab commenter. So this is a bit of a new thing. Typically, I'm working on commenting your labs, but now since we have double the labs, I just wanted some help with that. So we'll talk a little bit about what the expectations of the labs are, but we just want to make sure, once again, that nobody is falling through the cracks, or just have an extra pair of eyes to look through the code that you write during your lab. Now, your labs are effort-based, but this is an opportunity where we can find out like what might be giving you a particular problem and suggest some new ways to think about those problems that may be helpful to you. So that's why we're going to have the lab commenters, and you may additionally also be getting some comments from me as well. Additionally to that, we have the TA sessions. Oftentimes students use this to get assistance with their homeworks. So you can expect you'll have a homework on every Tuesday that will be due the following Tuesday when the lecture would be, regardless of what mode you're engaging in and whether or not you're participating. You should turn in your homework at that time. And so oftentimes students want to ask questions and collaborate with their peers on how to solve this. We have TA sessions on Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays. This tends to work out really well because the homeworks are typically due on Tuesday morning. So the students typically are looking for help towards the end of the week after they've gone through the lab and perhaps asked some of their questions there and are starting to transition into solving some of the problems independently. So we have the TA session on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Don't really tend to be well attended and a little difficult to TA staff. So we moved the next one to Sunday night. So you'll have the opportunity to ask more questions on Sunday, and then again, Monday night. I would just say, don't leave all your questions to the last minute. That's my major thing about that. But this is the typical setup that we have for our TAs and the TA rotations, which has worked really well. There may be some updates on rooms and who is participating, by Zoom or in person. So we will get those updates out to you. As of this second, right now, 1 week before classes start, the situation is that the computer science department has reserved some rooms that we are sharing between ourselves for the various computer science courses. So we may or may not get some of those hours, and it also depends on our TAs. So we are going to honor our TAs' request to either work in over Zoom or in person. Okay, and also we're going to have this possibility of adding this late night TA session. This is something new this semester. Again, this is to make sure that we have the opportunity to get everyone so that they can at least contact us once a week. So if you are literally on the other side of the earth and you are completely in the opposite schedule, we're going to try to make an effort. So we left this TBA to reach out to people who are actually in this situation and ask them when they need to, when they can actually participate and want to ask questions. So we'll be reaching out to you and working out a schedule, and also coordinating with our assistant, who has graciously agreed to work at alternate hours this semester. So great team of people. We are very fortunate to have them, and also we're very thankful to Wesleyan for supporting so many TAs. This is really a lot of assistance. Okay, so again, just to talk about resources and supports, I know many of you are programming for the very first time, and you may be experiencing some anxiety about starting to program. This is perfectly normal, and we have worked with many students who have never programmed in their life, and all of them have been able to write a program by the end of the semester, and I'm sure you'll be able to do it too. Not only do you have me as a resource, but we also have many other places where you can turn in order to get some help. So we have me. I have office hours, and I'll be holding these office hours via Zoom on Tuesdays from 10:20 to noontime, and Thursday from 2:20 to 2:50. This is a little bit short on office hours. I'm probably going to announce some additional hours, but the times when I usually have my office hours, I now have classes this semester. So I just need to work out my schedule in a little bit more detail since I've only just got my schedule. So I would hold of that thought, but we should at least have these hours available. We also are going to have the TA sessions, as I just mentioned, Thursday, Sundays, and Mondays, 7 to 9. Another place where you can get some help is the Quantitative Analysis Center. They have a tutoring center, so you may want to check into what availability they have. I actually do not have an update on what they're doing this semester, but I presume that they are moving forward with the tutoring center, as I haven't heard any differently. So you may find that somebody over there is able to help you. This is really more for like when you get into working on your project, especially if you want to do some data analysis or this kind of thing to add on to your Python knowledge. They can be a really terrific resource for that. It's really not for like questions like how do I answer number 3 on my homework. That really should go to the TAs or to me. Also, you should be aware that we have information technology service, so the ITS help desk. This is a terrific resource for kinds of things like your laptop is not working. So this doesn't just pertain to this class, but just in general, they can help you with that. They can also help you with things like getting your cell phone hooked up to the Wi-Fi. There is a ticket. You can also you can also drop by. They also have a phone number you can call. They're located in the it's not exactly in the Science Tower, it's next to the Science Tower, but in that same complex. It's right near the Sci-Li and Pi Cafe, if you know where that is. You can stop in there. There's a big sign up and they're really great. There are many of our upper level computer science students and friends who man the help desk. If you have an issue installing your Python software on your computer, for example, that could be something that they would be able to help you with. All right, so we oftentimes get asked, what are the prerequisite skills? You may have had some minimal amount of programming. There's always the questions about which course should you take. So for this course, the prerequisite skills are really pretty much things that probably most all college students have. Right? So basic computer skills such as running programs, opening, editing, and saving files. So if you know how to open a Microsoft Office document and edit it, save it and close it, that's what we're asking for here. We do not expect programming experience. Some students do come in with some amount of programming experience. And so it's always a question, if you do have a background, which is the right course. If you have no prerequisite coursework in this is clearly the place. If you've done work at the AP level and done well on the APs, getting a 4 or 5, probably you're ready for 211. And then it is a little bit of a gray area when you're someplace in between, and oftentimes your best bet is to just talk to us and take a look at the syllabi between the 2 classes, and we can work with you to figure out which course is the best one for you to be in. This course is appropriate for people who want to continue in computer science but do not have the sufficient background for the 211 course. I'll point out that the 211 is in fact the gateway course, so the 211 to 12 is how you get into the computer science major, and those are the courses that count towards that major. This class, the 112, does not count towards the computer science major. However, it may be required for you to take that before you're ready for the 211 to 12 sequence. You can apply the programming in the sciences, the humanities, and the arts. As a matter of fact, many people may be taking this as an NSM requirement. So there are lots of reasons why you can take it. We have students from all different majors who come to the class, and that's always great fun when we work on your final projects, because we've had a number of really creative ones where people can really bring in their background and let their strong side shine through, because programming can be used for many different things. You may use this to fulfill requirements for certificate programs, and maybe you want to learn how to program specifically with Python more in depth than the QAC options. That's a Quantitative Analysis Center, which I will be telling you a little bit about momentarily, is another option for how to take some additional courses or similar classes. So the requirements that Comp 112 fulfills is a wide variety of things. And so if you are in the stages where you're thinking about what you want to major in, it's good news that this may already satisfy some of those requirements. And we'll also revisit this again at the end of the course after you've taken it to think about, okay, you know, what should be the next steps, because hopefully you'll love programming and want to continue. So it does fulfill a requirement for biology, mathematics, and neuroscience and behavior. Now, it's not, in fact, actually required for those majors, but you can use it to fulfill a requirement for those majors. Also, you can use this course for a variety of minors. We have the data analysis minor, we have the education studies minor, and we have one of our newest programs, the integrated design, engineering, and applied science minor, where people work to build robots and actually design things with machines, which is really great fun. And we have a terrific new lab space for that, which I hope you'll check out. In addition to that, this course can fulfill a variety of certificate program requirements. You can do the certificate in applied data science, the certificate in informatics and modeling, which has two flavors, the computational science and quantitative world modeling, and the integrative genomic science variety. So the integrative genomic science is a very biology-based kind of a program. So if you're interested in computer science and biology, that one is probably for you. If you're more interested in modeling and that kind of a thing, probably the former option is the one for you. This can also be used in the College of Integrative Sciences, which is a college, and they in fact have a major, which is like an add-on feature to another major, and this is a popular course to take in the College of Integrative Sciences. I'm actually appointed in the CIS, College of Integrated Sciences, so if you think you may have an interest in that, you are always welcome to reach out to me to ask a question about how that works, and I would be happy to tell you about it in more detail. Also, just I'm including the links down here, so if you ever want to go and check out the latest on the requirements and so on, and the course listings and so forth, hopefully you will find these links to be useful. All right, so a little bit about me. Who's teaching this class? I am Professor Thayer, and I've actually been affiliated with Wesleyan for over 20 years now. I'm actually a graduate of Wesleyan, so I did my graduate work here. My undergraduate work was at another small liberal arts college outside of Boston. And currently I am an assistant professor of the practice in the integrative sciences. So my research is very interdisciplinary. In fact, I am not a computer scientist by training, which people always find to be somewhat amusing. I am actually a computational chemist, and sometimes people wonder, well, why is a computational chemist teaching my computer science class? Well, the reason is because computer science can be applied to many different things, and so one of them is learning how to program, and we use that all the time in doing molecular simulations and doing machine learning. So many of you are probably familiar with machine learning, and you may also be aware that we're trying to discover new drugs all the time. COVID-19 is a perfect example of that. So one of the things that I'm most interested in is studying molecules to create drugs to modify how they behave, especially when the molecule is in a disease state, or to impart new behaviors on those molecules to prevent diseases. So Alzheimer's disease is a situation we're looking at right now, trying to prevent the progression of the disease by giving people molecules that will help them not have the detrimental effects. So some people have mutations that saves them from getting Alzheimer's disease, and what if you're not one of the lucky ones? Well, maybe we can mimic that. One of my favorite projects that we're working on involves p53, which is a protein that is known as the tumor suppressor protein. It stops cancer, but when it gets mutated, it doesn't stop the cancer, and cancer can grow. And so one of the grails of understanding how this works is to fix the p53 if it gets broken. And so we do that using molecular dynamic simulations and also using machine learning techniques. So we've actually come up with two new methodologies to do this, and we're developing more. And I have a vibrant research group where people are participating at all levels. We have undergraduates, we have people who have a master's degree, we have fifth-year master's students who have been with us recently, and we also have a postdoc working with us. So if you're interested in getting involved, there are many wonderful research opportunities, and that's what I do. And we program all the time because we're using a high-performance computing cluster, and we are doing things such as running programs all the time. So that is why a computational chemist is teaching your computer science class. So to tell you some 3 fun facts, well, I already gave the first one away. I also have 2 greyhounds, Max. So I'm in my home office recording this right now, and Max is usually sitting behind me supervising to make sure I'm doing a good job. He's actually downstairs having dinner right now, but I'm sure you'll probably see him poking his head in a number of the recordings or during lab sessions. You can always just give Max a wave. You can see his picture over here. This is us going for a walk. I also have Priscilla, who is totally a couch potato, and she's absolutely inseparable with my niece. So, yep. And I also am a semi-professional violinist. I play with the Chicago Business Students Orchestra in a previous life when I lived out in Chicago and did some postdoc work there. So that is something else that I've also been very interested in. So you see, programmers can do lots of things besides just program, and programming can be beneficial to many other areas. Right, this is our book that we're going to use. This is called Think Python, How to Think Like a Computer Scientist. This is written by Alan B. Downey, and it is available freely on the web as a PDF for download. You can also buy a hard copy at the R.J. Julia bookstore. You can also buy it on Amazon. Please note that there are 2 editions out there, and you should use the 2nd edition and not the 1st edition. Reason being that they do have different versions of Python featured in them, and if you use the 1st edition, you will be unneedingly frustrated by code that doesn't work, because there are enough differences between Python version 2 and Python version 3 that it's really not worth it. You should really just learn from the correct version. So we're using Python version 3, which is discussed in the 2nd edition of Think Python. We also have a Moodle website. This is showing the Moodle website for section 4, and section 5 also has Moodle website that's pretty much the same. This is where we have all of our information for the course posted in a central location. Here you can find the syllabus, the course calendar. You'll pick up your homework assignments here. You'll post your solutions here. You'll be able to view your grades and your homework solution sets. You'll get your lab assignments here. You'll post your solutions here. This is where you'll get your feedback. You'll also see any notices if we have any here, and also you can pick up the slides from the lectures. And there'll also be links to these videos as soon as we actually finish recording them. Those will be up and available for you. I will mention that on the Moodle's website, I'm being brave, and I'm trying to have this be actually the major way that we get your grades this semester, because students are always saying, oh, my grade doesn't match. And the problem is that Moodle doesn't by default weight your grades, and so I just had a bit of frustration with Moodle not really doing things exactly the way they want. But I put some time into learning Moodle, and I'm going to try to do better with that. But I do reserve the right to calculate your grades the old-fashioned way, using a spreadsheet as your official grade. So you should really just think of Moodle as a place to collect your grades, and then you need to apply the weighting yourself, what your grade is. So it's basically disseminate your grade. I'm also always happy to discuss your grades with you. You should never be in the dark about that. And if there's a serious problem, don't worry, I'll be looking for you anyways. So, all right, we are gonna put up a Google Drive for access to Moodle for those who are unenrolled. We're gonna put up the information on the syllabus, course calendar, basically the things you're gonna need in order to get started with the course, so that you don't have to fall behind in the course, because obviously if you're trying to get into the course, you should be up to speed anyways. So we have that available for those of you who are trying to become enrolled. So just to give an enrollment update and alternate courses, I do realize that this is something that changes, you know, on an hourly basis. So the situation is rather dire looking at the moment, and it may be not quite as bad. We're in the kind of unique situation that we have drop ad opening before courses actually open. So right now, there are in fact no available seats at the time of this recording for any of the sections, including Professor Wolf's sections 1 to 3. I will mention that we do coordinate between the sections to try to get the people in that really absolutely have to be in the course. So if you were a graduating senior and you can't take it this spring, or you're graduating this December, or you've been bumped out of the course 3 times, which sounds like an exaggeration, but I have had a student that happened to. So we do need to prioritize people who must have this in order to complete their course of study. And we do need to honor people who have attempted to get in for in-class rank. And aside from that, this semester is really unique in that we have these unusual situation with the labs, right? And so I'll be showing you shortly the situation is that it would be great if you could switch into another section. So I do have a preference for people who are able to take the course online or to go to the afternoon sections, all else being equal. So if you are able to do that, it's possible that you would be able to get into the class a little bit easier. Anyways, this is a typical situation for course enrollment at this time. So it's not hugely surprising to me, but it does mean that many of you who are on the wait list, you will likely take the course in another semester. So what you want to do is you want to be stuck on the wait list, and you want the drop ad to end being on the wait list because it will help you get in the course more readily in the spring. So that's probably the fate of most of you on the wait list, unfortunately. If you have a special circumstance, do make sure you let us know. I mean, obviously this needs to be a legitimate circumstance in case a seat opens up, but anyways, it looks like there may not be that much movement this semester, mainly due to the fact that we started drop ad early, but you never know. To give you some other ideas, we would encourage you to take a look at some of the other courses that we have available. So the 114, How to Talk to Machines, I know also has many of the same enrollment issues. That is an extremely popular course. But you may want to take a look at that. That actually is running this semester, and it's got 2 sections. I will also mention that we are honoring the 114 to cover the requirements that the 112 would cover. So you can basically take these courses interchangeably. The focus of this course is somewhat different than this course, but it may be an appropriate course and similar enough if a computer science course at the introductory level is basically what you're looking for. There's also the bioinformatics programming, which I believe is not being offered this semester, but I did just want to mention it to you because that is also an interesting course that definitely focuses more on programming for biology purposes, so they spend more time learning some biology specific information. But it is a terrific course taught by one of my colleagues with whom I do many research projects. Another alternate course is the 211, the Intro to Computer Science. So this is that gateway course that I was mentioning before. If you're somebody who's in this course and you have already taken AP programming, or maybe you're just really good at math and you have some experience in, say, another programming language, you may feel that this is not quite the course for you. And so you may be looking for a bit more of a challenge. So 211 would be the one to look at. Also, if you're not able to get into the 112 and you have a solid background, you may look at the 211. You would need to get a course override if you don't specifically have a reason to get in. Occasionally it happens. Again, this is also a course that's very difficult to get into and also a very popular course. But it is another alternative and maybe something that you want to have a look at. I would also call your attention to the Quantitative Analysis Center. This is a center on campus that is focused on data analysis. They offer a wide variety of courses, and they tend to be half semester night course type of things that are focused on gaining skills to do analysis of data. It's a slightly different focus than the computer science department has, which is more into Well, beyond this course, it's more about the structure of the program and how this is similar to mathematics. Whereas the QAC is much more focused on actually analyzing up data and getting analyses out, data-driven questions and this kind of thing. However, if you're interested in programming in Python, or you're taking a look at some other classes that might be interesting to you, this may be an alternative. They do have a Python course. It's a rather short one, but they do run it. I've just highlighted a couple of things here. So the working with Python could be an alternative. It's not running this semester. It seems to typically run in the spring, but that may be an option for you. This, like I was saying, tends to be focused on a particular programming skills. You can see over here a couple of the courses that are offered this semester, working with SQL and databases, working with Excel and VBA, Mathematica, R. I also teach one of these courses in the spring on MATLAB, so if you're interested in that, you may wish to pick that up. They tend to be half-credit courses, and again, are just a bit more focused on skills acquisition than we tend to be in computer science, but could be an interesting thing for you to take. And even if you do take the 112 with us, you may want to consider taking one of these QAC courses at another point in time. So let's actually talk about this course, the components of it, and how the grading works. So your course grade is comprised of several components. There are going to be 2 exams, each worth 25% of your grade. There's the laboratory sessions, which is based on effort. The idea between the labs is to go in and to get experience working with the new materials. That's only worth 10% of your grade, although it is a very important part of the course. You have homework and homework problem sets once a week, and those are going to be at 15%. And your final project in lieu of a final exam is worth 25%, equal to the exams that we have. So to just get an idea of how all these pieces fit together, this is our course calendar, and then we'll talk about each of the different ways that you're being graded separately in the upcoming slides. So this is basically the layout for our plan for this semester, which is a pretty typical layout. Again, we're sort of just having some of the peculiarities in mind. However, there is no fall break, as you've probably noticed. We are having election day off this year, which takes out a Tuesday, but we do have labs on Thursday. And just keeping in mind when the fall break lands and how this may pan out. And there's been some talk that we may not be coming back on campus after the fall break. So I've kind of like designed this so that you can easily transition offline, not offline, but off of in-person interactions after the fall break without any trouble, if that is to be the situation. So basically what we have here is we're going to go through an overview of Python, then we do expressions, variables, and programs. Functions is something that may be completely new to you. This is our first serious difficult chapter. Is probably the most difficult one in the first half of the course. Then we learn how to do flow control, how to change how your program runs. So we start off doing, A, B, C, you progress one to the next, but you can have if statements and while statements to cause the execution to deviate from that. Then we'll talk about strings, which are basically text, so we can learn how to process those. This tends to be an easier topic. And then we actually are fortunate to have a day to review for the exam this semester. I am asking you to have a look at a fun exercise on that day as well. And then we'll have our exam online. All sections will take their exam from 8 o'clock to 9:20 on Thursday. I realize that it's possible you could have a conflict, although it's pretty unlikely since your lecture is that time. But irregardless of when your lab is, this is when your exam is. If you have an issue with that, what should you do? You should reach out to me as soon as possible, and we will figure out how to schedule that at an alternate time. But we do want to get everybody through on the day of the exam, if humanly possible. All right, so that's the setup for the first half. These are color-coded as to in-person and remote activities. So the first 2 weeks we are going to be remote. This is because of the mandatory state quarantine, and also because we have this situation where we're working out who's going to be in which lab and the uncertainty and who's in fact enrolled in case there is turnover. I need to be certain that there are only 12 people in that room at a time, just to keep everybody safe. And there may be some who need to continue your quarantine because it may be starting later, depending on when you arrive on campus. So just to make everything simple, we'll do the first 2 weeks online, which hopefully will not be too bad. And then we'll have the majority of our labs in person. After our first exam, normally this would fall around fall break time, but not so this year. We're going to dive right into lists, dictionaries, and file input and output, which are exciting, more advanced topics in Python that somewhat build on what we've done before. And they're going to learn, teach you about some additional data structures that are available in Python. I do have some planned travel. It is unavoidable at that time, which may be to an infected state, which is why I have these marked as being online activities, just so we can plan ahead for that. But we may be able to open these up to be also in-person sessions, depending on how things go and the status of that state that I need to travel to. Then we're also going to have file input and output. That will be in person. Then we'll have our election day, right? And so there will be no class on this day, but we will have, so this is a kind of a nice breather in the semester, and we'll work on the debugging lab, and also we'll be starting to think about your final project. So you'll be making a proposal about what it is you're going to do for your project, and we'll be discussing those one-on-one during Zoom meetings. So because we need to talk on those Zoom meetings and the masks don't really work so well for talking one-on-one, I will just be talking to you over Zoom for that. Then we're going to have classes, objects, and methods. So you may have heard Python is an object-oriented programming language. This is the week when we find out what that really means. We'll have lab as regular. We have another review day for the exam, and then again we'll have an online exam session. So these exam sessions are the same for both sections, and there will likely be a lot of similar questions on the two exams from the two sections, not between these two exams, but on the exams between the two sections, just to keep the classes, as similar as possible. Then after that, we'll be into the fall break week. So I believe the dorms are closing at some point on Wednesday, but we should be able to have our regular Tuesday meeting. So what we're going to do is use that day as our project worksheet. So you'll have some preliminary results, right? So that will be our second check-in, right? So you'll have 2 check-ins during the semester. You'll be saying what project you want to do, and then you're going to have a bit of time to get up and started on actually doing that, and then we're going to check in on how that progress is going before we depart for the fall break. Then many students want to continue working on their project. I have had students complete their final project or have it in a nearly complete state when the break is over. So if you are that type of worker, then you're welcome to get your stuff done ahead of time to free up your time during your finals week. But if not, you still have plenty more time to work on that. Then we have your future in computer science, where we come back to a lot of the things we're talking about today to wrap up the course and see where you can go once you have learned how to program. Here we have Zoom presentations on the work that you've done. And we'll be looking at that over Zoom to share it with your classmates. We'll then go into reading period and have the final projects due at the registrar's, due per the registrar's schedule is what I mean to say, due on Wednesday, December 10th. So what that means is that had you had a final exam, the registrar puts out a schedule and says when your exam will be. This is when your exam would have been if it had been an exam. So, to talk to you a little bit about what's going on for evaluation in our course. We have homeworks. You can expect to get a homework assignment every week. You should complete the readings found in your course calendar prior to going to lecture on Tuesday, those are those readings from the Downey's book, and they're listed on the schedule we were just looking at. What you should do is make a note card of the syntax, important ideas, and vocab, and so forth. If you don't do this, well, what will happen? Well, I mean, I just want to give you some incentive to actually read the material before you come, because I think it's going to really help you to retain it. So what we do is we say, okay, so, you know, if you don't do it, we're going to take it off your participation grade, which is basically your lab grade. So you need to do it before you come to class on Tuesday. But what would happen is we would lower your lab grade if you didn't participate and get your preparation work done. Okay, so what do we mean by this? All right, I'm saying spend 20 minutes. You know, the note cards, these note cards. I'm saying, like, the amount of information you could put on a note card. Now, we're, of course, you know, working online, and how are you going to be showing me this? You can just do it in the text document online. That's perfectly fine. But what I want you to do is I want you to read through the chapter and make some notes. I'm asking you to spend, you know, 20, 30 minutes just figuring out what are the major topics, what's the vocab you should know. That's what we're looking for. You don't need to kill yourself over it, but I want you to look at it before you come. You need to do your weekly problem sets to test your understanding of the main concepts. Again, the homeworks are not actually worth terribly much, but it's important that you do them because that's going to be your real practice. You can work together, you can consult the assistants, you can talk to me at office hours, ask your friends. Whatever you turn in has to represent your understanding of the solution. What is definitely not allowed is consulting the actual solutions. So those will pop up on Moodle after the assignment is due, but it's definitely not fine to take a look at that before the assignment is due. You can expect a homework set on Moodle each Tuesday unless it's otherwise noted in that schedule. There's a few weeks where it's a bit irregular because we don't meet on Tuesdays and the exams and so on. The homework is due at the beginning of the following lecture unless otherwise stated. So again, it's typically going to be due on the following. So it'll be assigned on a Tuesday and it's due a week later, right? So some of the irregularities occur like around the time of the exam. So you'll get our homework on this day. All right, and that's actually pretty normal. But you see that this day we don't have a class. So your homework will be assigned, but you'll have extra time to turn it in, right? So we'll take it on Thursday that week. So there's just a few of those irregularities, and you know, we'll be sure to remind you as we're encroaching on those dates. But basically just get in the habit of Tuesday to Tuesday is your homework schedule. All right, for the labs, we have the weekly lab section to practice what we're learning. You can work in, well, actually we'll be doing groups this semester, not pairs. It'll probably be groups of 3. The lab guide sheet will be found on Moodle. You should complete as much as you can during the lab section. It is graded on good faith effort. That means if you come to lab and you've worked on your lab for an hour and 20 minutes, if you get one problem done, you'll still get 100%. If you, you know, we're just looking for you to put in good effort, to ask questions. This is your opportunity to learn and to make mistakes and to ask your questions. So please just do that. That's really all we're asking you to do. If you use it like that as a tool to learn, I think that that will be very beneficial for your progression. To be provided is to identify the potential misconceptions and correct them before the homework is due. But again, you don't get penalized for getting something incorrect, right? So we're just helping you to learn. And again, just arrive to lab prepared. So this is the bit about the note card. You need to do it by the time you go to the lecture. So there'll be a little handout where you can turn that in. So you need to do that before you go, but it will count towards your lab grade, particularly if you don't do it. So please just do it. It will be really helpful for you. Okay, study tips, how to strategize your week. So this is the basic way that the week is set up, and it's kind of set up in a rhythm to help you, you know, get through your week, right? So on Tuesdays, you're going to have your lecture and your homework is going to be assigned. By Thursday, you're going to be going to your lab section. So you should be doing your readings by Monday night, right, for the next section. You should be then thinking about completing your assignments, right? Take a first look at your homework on Wednesday and ask your questions in lab. You should be looking over your lab. And when you get to lab, you can then, you know, ask those questions and do your lab. Then you have your first TA session available on Thursday night. Okay, then you have the weekend, and then as you get back into homework mode, you may want to visit the TA sessions on Sunday, right? Or you also have until Monday to do that, and then they'll be passed in that day, right? So that's basically the rhythm as you work through the weeks. So it's useful to think of that in terms of like what tasks you should find time to do on each day so that you don't leave everything to the last minute. Programming is not one of those things you can leave to the last minute, because doing more effort doesn't always mean getting the answer out. These are the major dates for our course. Thursday, October 8th is our exam 1. Thursday, November 19th is exam 2. And Wednesday, December 10th is our project due date. Please make sure that you take note of these dates. And if you have issues with these dates, you need to reach out to us as soon as possible. Also, we have the final projects. As I've alluded to, the projects offer you a wide latitude of things you can do with programming. Students apply programming to many, many different areas. We'll be giving you some project proposal sheets to get your ideas on what you want to do. We'll be checking in with you at various points throughout the semester on your preliminary results. And finally, you'll be presenting your results to your classmates before you complete your project and turn in the final product during the final exam week. You should demonstrate the mastery of Python programming. It is in lieu of an exam, so we expect that it will be commensurate with showing your skills as an exam would do. Some of the project ideas we have are tic-tac-toe, hangman, battleship, sports games, animated greeting cards, music transposition, foreign language translator, plan book scheduler, and many, many more. I'll be giving you some additional ideas as we get in closer to actually thinking about your proposal, but hopefully this will get your imagination going to think about how you might apply your program. So we do need to go over our course policies to make sure everybody is on the same page about what we can do. Later missed assignments, you should really be turning your assignments in on time. If for whatever reason you have an illness or so forth, what you need to do is simply just send me a note and let me know that you're unable to complete your homework or your lab on time, and just ask for an extension without a problem. If you have a major illness, you should probably be in touch with your class dean, who will reach out to all of your instructors and let them know your situation so you don't have to keep repeating yourself. Exams are another story. It's really important that you take your exams on time. We do reserve the right to ask for a note or whatnot if you're going to miss an exam, a doctor's note or whatever. So please do try to take it on time. I do realize that there is that scheduling issue, that it's been scheduled at the 8:50 time slot, which may not be your lab time on Thursday. So if you have a conflict, let us know and we'll work out an alternate time for you to take it. Electronic device usage. This is especially important when we're working together, because electronic devices can be quite distracting to those around you. So, of course, it's a programming class. We want to encourage students to be using their electronic devices. So you should be using them, however, for things that are on task. If you're using it for something else, that's inappropriate, and you shouldn't be doing that. Especially when you're in lab, you should be focused on doing lab. You shouldn't be checking your emails and surfing the web and so on. Attendance. So attendance can be met in a variety of ways. So you need to attend the lecture either in person or to watch that online. And for labs, as mentioned, you need to either attend the lab in person, Zoom in, or if you're going to do some of the remote options, you need to be sure to check in with me a minimum of once a week. Academic honesty. Obviously, copying work of somebody else and turning that in as your own is not appropriate. You need to be working using the highest standards of integrity. Unfortunately, we have had some increase in going to the honor board, just in general, because I think people are feeling really stressed about the online learning and the situation. So what I would encourage you to do is really just make sure you reach out and ask us for help if you're feeling like you're getting lost in your class, and we don't resort to doing some of these dishonest things. Really, it's not worth it. That record is going to follow with you for all your life. So please just reach out to us and ask for help. That's why we have so many wonderful TAs and myself and so many other resources. So please just let's not go down that path. It's a very unpleasant one for both of us, and I would really prefer not to do that. Conflict and non-discrimination. So I think that it's very important that we have an atmosphere of open exchange between everyone who's in the classroom. There are going to be people who come in with a variety of different backgrounds and different views on things. We are all here to learn, and we are all here to support each other. That's what I promise to do for you, and I expect that you will treat me and all of your classmates with dignity and respect at all times, irregardless of anything that may separate you from those people, right? Anything that may be different in the way you view things. It's very important that we have this level of respect for everyone in the room, and we don't tolerate anything besides that. That is the university's policy. That is the policy in my room. We have not had any problems with this. I don't expect to, but let's make sure that we have that level of respect in our room. For religious holidays, certainly if any of the activities of this course interfere with your celebration of a religious holiday, all you need to do is just let us know, and we will do our best to reschedule the event around what it is you need, or provide you an extension or whatever we can do to help you. So certainly I uphold the university's policy for people to practice their religious beliefs and to support people in being involved in those activities. Finally, I would mention our accommodation letters. So if you have an academic accommodation, please provide that to me as soon as possible so that I can help you and so that we can make the best out of your learning experience here. If I don't know that you have an accommodation letter, I can't be helpful to you. The other thing is many times this affects how you would take the exam. If I don't know that, I can't help you take the exam better, so just let us know. So then, that's been a lot about the course itself. Let's actually take a look at some programming. So this is a sample function written in Python from a student that took my course a few years ago. So I would encourage you to just pause this video and read through it and see how much of this you could actually understand. I bet you could get the gist of what's happening here. Programming in Python is something that's doable. So hopefully you've taken a moment to just read through this. What we can see here is we have a print statement that's going to put something on the screen, and the user is going to try to buy some monster balls at this shop. This was from like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of a game. Okay, and so we see that we have flow control here, some examples of else, right? Else and if statements. So if you don't have enough money, then you can't buy the monster ball. But if you do have enough money, then you're going to buy the monster ball and subtract the cost of the monster ball from your total amount of money, right? And so that's what's basically happening here. And so then we have a thank you for the user, and it's going to then continue on. So that's a snippet of code, and hopefully you can just get some rough idea of what's happening here. There may be some mysterious notations in here, but we'll be learning about this throughout the class. Why should you learn how to program? Well, you may wish to interact with the computer on your own terms. You may wish to automate repetitive and or laborious tasks. Computers are great about that and don't complain about boredom. You may wish to bring your ideas to life. Maybe computers can do a task for you much faster than humans can. That's one of the reasons why I use computers to compute force equals mass times acceleration over and over again. And why do you want to learn how to program? So there are a number of different kinds of programming languages. Imperative programming languages is probably what comes to mind when you think about writing a computer program, something that's sequential, that runs from start to finish. And indeed, Python is a imperative programming language, but it's important to be aware that there are in fact other kinds of programming languages out there. So imperative programming is a paradigm that explicitly tells the computer what to do and how to do it. That means it requires an algorithm, the steps that it follows in order to complete its task. Programming languages allow us to communicate the algorithms to the computer. So an algorithm is not necessarily a piece of code. It could be a set of instructions. So examples of imperative programming languages that have this set of instructions to go between the programmer and the computer include Python, also the C series, C, C++, C Sharp, Fortran, which is a programming language for scientists, BASIC, and MATLAB. There are also other kinds of programming languages such as declarative. And in this case, you would tell the computer what you want to happen, and then the computer figures out what to do. This kind of programming is not covered in this class. This kind of programming is, for example, machine learning. This is an example of an algorithm. So here is Euclid's algorithm. And this is very interesting because it is going to calculate something that's probably somewhat familiar to you, the greatest common divisor. So you've probably done this maybe, you know, in elementary or middle school or so. And so if you have two numbers, two integers, and we want to say, you know, what are the factors of these numbers and which factor is the biggest one between them? So we have, say, for example, 9 and 6. The factors of 9 would be 1 and 9, 3 and 3, and 6 would be 1 and 6 and 2 and 3, right? So the biggest number common to both those lists is 3. And so that's what we're trying to calculate with this. Now, you might do it by laying out the numbers that go in evenly and then comparing the lists. But this is a different way of doing it. And it's a really good exercise in following the steps and then seeing what will happen next. So what we're going to have you do, actually this is an exercise you'll be doing a little bit later on, is to actually step through this. But I wanted to show it to you so you get some idea about how do you do this, right? What does this mean? So all algorithms have a start and an end, here represented by entry and this end box down here. Then you're going to have some inputs, and then this is a common node common place where you come back to, okay? And then you're going to proceed through it following the arrows. So this says, is B equal to 0? If the answer is yes, you go down here. But if it's not, then you're going to do A is greater than B. And so this is going to illustrate some important things about this. So A and B will be your two numbers, the 9 and the 6, to which we want to get the greatest common factors. But the values of A and B are going to have the opportunity to update as we move through the program. And so what we're going to do is we're going to keep track of those values of A and B as we step through here. And you see that what will happen is A will be subtracted from B, and B will get a new value. So this is the current value of B, and this will be the new value of B, so that it can get updated as we move through the program. Likewise, A could also get updated if we go on this branch. And so we step through this algorithm, which is different than probably how you would have thought to calculate it, and see if you get the same answer. It's a very interesting algorithm and points out the way the computers think, which is very step by step, one thing after another. So the next thing we need to talk about is how to parse syntax. So this is an example taken from the literature. This is actually a quote from Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, a book you may have read in high school. It says, real courage is when you know when you, when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what. That was spoken by Atticus Finch, one of the characters in this book. And so in an English class, you might ask you, well, what is the meaning of this quote? Does it really mean what it says at face value, or is maybe there's some hidden more deeper meaning or some application to a life in here? So parsing means pulling that meaning out, pulling out the idea that's being expressed in something, some symbols here, which is just some text. And so when we're going to parse something, we think about the syntax that expresses the idea, and parsing is then that extracting it out. So some of the syntax we have here is the quotes, right? So these are saying this is what somebody said. We also have some other punctuation in here. So we can see this is the end of the sentence. We can see this is the beginning of the sentence because it has real courage. We also have these square brackets, meaning in the actual text, it had probably had the word it. And we have substituted in its antecedent here, which is an example of parsing what that actually means. And so that's how we could go about that in literature. Now, you've probably had another example of parsing, and that happens in math. We do this all the time because we have mathematical symbols and we have agreements about what those symbols mean. And then we actually work through doing what those symbols say in order to get some meaning out, to get some answer, or to simplify an expression. Ah, yes, and this is our course assistant, Mr. Max, lounging on the daybed. Max, say hello. Oh, he's being a little shy right now, but you probably saw him hop up. So a perfect example of parsing syntax is order of operations. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division from left to right, addition and subtraction from left to right. So if we were to parse the following mathematical expression and then evaluate, there are rules on how to do this, and that's what parsing is all about. So naively, you might add 1 plus 2 together and to get 3, and then multiply 3 times 3 to get 9. But of course, that's not correct because we have rules. And that is dictated by the order of operations and things that we agree upon as to how this is done. So when we actually parse this out, we know that of course we should multiply 2 times 3 first because multiplication comes first, and then we should add 1 to it. So the correct answer is in fact 7, which is an example of how to parse a mathematical expression to get the meaning out. So then that brings us to our summary. We've talked about imperative programming and what that is, and that it's not the only kind of programming. We've talked about algorithms, syntax, and then how to parse that syntax is our first look into the way of how programs work. So I hope you'll enjoy your Think Python readings to go along with this. And I hope this has been enlightening to you to get you started in thinking about programming. Just taking a look ahead, what you should be working on is obtaining your textbook, Think Python. You should be reading chapter 1, The Way of the Program, to go along with this lecture. And you should also be reading chapter 2, Variables, Expressions, and Statements for next week. So you should start making your note cards for chapter 2. You should do your homework 1, which will have some things that we talked about today. Familiarize yourself with our Moodle page. Report to your assigned lab section as you've signed up for. Those will all be online this week as a reminder. So first 2 weeks of lab is going to be Zoom for everybody, and then we'll start in with the in-person after that. You should make your note cards, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you. So it's been great talking with you today, and I look forward to seeing you in the lab sections and in the other recordings for this class. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.